Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Intelligent Moron with Alex Silva. We're about that point in the year, whether you're a fan or not. It is, and especially if you're Catholic, like myself. Not the best Catholic, but I am Catholic. Where it is time to practice Lent season, or, stuff like that, where you would give up something that is dear to your heart, something that you enjoy to do, or something that you enjoy to consume, like a food item or a drink, and you decide to give it up for 40 days and 40 nights up until Easter, kind of to, show that you can kind of do what the Lord Jesus Christ did, even though it's nothing comparable. Like, for instance, this year I took a step further in the season and in my own being and what I am capable of. I took it even further than I thought I could. This year, not only did I give up my beloved candy, which you all know from this podcast, have known that I've had troubles with candy. It's been quite the addiction, I gotta say. Candy for me this past year, and I actually fully recognized it with just how much I can consume of candy, has been a not so good thing for me to just eat all the time. And for most people too, I guess you would say that candy for them is not something that they should be having a whole lot of. So I took it a step further, which I never really do. I decided to give up two things for Lent this year. Number one being candy. Number two being soda pop, whatever you call it. Giving up soda as well. So double the sugar combo. Double the sugar. And I'm not like the most big soda guy. I'll be honest, I don't drink it like a whole lot, I think. But I do love a nice Coca-Cola, during the day. A nice, ice cold, crispy Coca-Cola. Oh, it's always a good thing, I think. It's always been one of my go-to soda. I think, in my opinion, the best soda in the world. I'll be honest, I've had a lot of soda. I've had Coke, Pepsi, Sprite, root beer, Dr. Pepper. I've had a bunch. Orange soda, grape soda, ginger ale, Starry. You name it. All kinds of soda. Mr. Peep. Tons of soda. Coca-Cola is just like the best soda ever invented. It's not the first one, but it's definitely the one that perfected, I think, in my opinion, cola. The best cola out there. Without a doubt, probably Coca-Cola. So, got the double whammy, the double sugar whammy this year for Lent is soda and candy. And listen, I'm one day in, right? One day into this challenge. And feeling pretty good. I gotta tell you, I was a little tempted to get some candy today. Just, cross my eyes. I saw them, and in my crosshairs, I thinking about it like, damn, now that I gave it up, I really, really want it right now. You know what I'm saying? Snickers, Twix, in my crosshairs, just like, oh man, I would kill a Twix right now. I would kill a Snickers in a second. But no, I'm doing this not just for me. Well, pretty much only for me. But so I can compare myself to Christ himself. If Christ can walk 40 days and 40 nights in a desert with nothing to eat or drink, then I sure should be able to give up candy and soda pop for 40 days and 40 nights, or at least however many nights and days that is until Easter, which is possible. Now, if you're not aware of the Catholic faith, you probably also don't know that on actual Ash Wednesday, the day it begins, and every Friday after that, obviously until Easter, Catholics also don't eat any meat on those days, which is also a big challenge. Because I don't know about you, I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not a vegan. I enjoy consuming meat, whether it be like super high prepared meat like a steak, some chicken, pork chops, to like a hot dog, something that's not super prepared, pepperoni pizza, a Lunchable, salami and crackers, sausage at breakfast, bacon at breakfast, what have you, a Slim Jim, right, for a snack. I consume meat every day for about 3 square meals, sometimes 4 or 5 meals a day. I consume meat, all types of meat, right? That's hard to do. That is extremely hard to do. Now, sometimes I think to myself, like, I can easily not. This could be done so easily, no problem whatsoever. But I gotta tell you, man, every time this season comes up, every time it's Lent again, every time it's time to, give up something and then no meat on Fridays, when the days come, right, when Friday approaches, it is brutal. It is brutal. It is hard to do. It's like, man, do I wish that, I could just kill a cheeseburger right now, or kill some chicken, a chicken sandwich, some hot wings right now. Oh man, pepperoni pizza, anything but just cheese. And then it's just like, no, you got to be strong. You got to be strong for not just you, but the Lord himself. My brothers and sisters in Christ, you got to be strong. And I feel like once you're able to get over that hump, when you're able to get over at least the first Friday or even Ash Wednesday, you emerge on the other side, right? The next day you emerge, and then it's like, oh, I can eat meat. Yay. It does suck for that day, I'll be honest. It's terrible. It's not fun. But once you're over that day and you complete it, it's a sense of accomplishment, and you don't eat meat, it's a pretty good thing. And I'll be honest, I'm also looking at this as a good health choice. Giving up soda pop and candy and no meat on Fridays is probably a good thing if you think about it. A lot of times when you think about your diet and what you consume in a day, right, from breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and all the snacks and second meals in between, right? What? You guys don't have more meals than I do? Must be nice, but, considering all that you consume in your day, right, you kind of look like, how much did I actually consume? How much calories, fat, sugars, what have you, what have I really eaten in this day? Sometimes it could surprise you and sneak up on you, right? The amounts of calories, sugars, sodium, depending on, what you do in the day, if you move a lot, exercise, what have you, do other extracurricular stuff, go for a walk maybe, and then you look at what you consumed and what you ate that day, you're like, oh no, I am totally over what I'm supposed to be eating. It's hard to do. It's really hard to keep track of sometimes, because you think to yourself, oh, this little bag of chips is nothing, right? This donut is pretty much air. What am I really, what am I so worried about? And then you have like 2 donuts and you're like, oh man, my sugar is through the roof. Now, not really, but you look at how much you've tracked and you're like, oh, I think I had too much sugar today. Or, someone like me who enjoys a nice top ramen every once in a while, well, that thing has a ton of sodium, and which, a ton of sodium is not very good for you. So it's a good thing that it tastes good. It's a quick, simple snack / meal. And you're like, oh, this was nothing. It's just, I basically just boiled water, put a little powder in it, and then ate it. That was it. Well, wrong. That powder has a ton of sodium. And, if you want to eat more sodium throughout the day, watch the levels and stuff like that. It's not so good for you. So even though, I'm not eating meat on Fridays, you still gotta watch what you eat, You gotta be able to watch what you eat. And you know what always happens also is whenever Lent also happens, I always tend to combine when I give up some food for the 40 days, I like to include healthier options of what I consume in the day. Like, for instance, today I had for breakfast a Belvita cracker. Well, pack of crackers, actually, which is like 4 little Belvita biscuits, crackers, right? And they're pretty good for like a breakfast. I have to say, they're not a sponsor, but I'm gonna give them a little bit of a shout out here. Those Belvita crackers are actually pretty filling, if I'm being honest. Sometimes I find them more filling than like a bowl of cereal. Also depends on what kind of cereal you eat, but like sometimes, the Belvita crackers get the job done. And then normally for lunch I'll have like, a peanut butter jelly sandwich, some trail mix I've been packing, and some almonds, or that is actually the trail mix, an apple, carrots, some water. Yeah, it's healthier options. And I gotta tell you this, man. Sometimes you want what tastes better. I think we all want what tastes better, right? But the stuff that doesn't taste as good, right? Like carrots don't usually taste as good as like, a nice bag of chips sometimes, right? But if you get in the habit, I think, of eating healthier food that actually makes you feel better, right? Like carrots and apples and all that stuff that I just said, peanut butter jelly sandwich on some pretty decent, good bread. It all kind of adds up to giving you more energy and giving you more strength and not being so, junk food, while it tastes good, doesn't really give you a whole lot of energy. That's something you don't know when you're younger. And even when you get to my age, sometimes you think, I just need something, it doesn't matter. I'm hungry. What tastes good, I'll have that, When reality, you should be going for something that, might not taste as good to you, but is better for you, like carrots or apples or, fruits and vegetables, or healthier snacks like Belvita crackers, I gotta tell you this, those Belvita crackers are much more filling and much more better for me, and I think for everybody else, than like Frosted Flakes and milk. I'll be honest. So, I guess it's also when you get older, you kind of like stuff that you didn't really care for when you were younger. Like, I like raisins now. I really do. I never thought that I would be able to enjoy raisins. But one day, we bought some. They were kind of like a new pack from the store, not the little mini packs, but like a bigger pack. And I just had a couple, like a handful of raisins, right? And I was like, oh, these are not bad. Like they're like, obviously dried up grapes, obviously. Not as sweet as grapes, but there's something there to them. I can get behind it. The texture definitely is, probably what drives people away. But the taste is not too bad. There's a little bit of sugar, a little bit of sweetness. It's a fruit, it's like it's a decent, nice alternative to like a sugary snack, or it's a nice snack to have. That's a healthier option. Also, what I've heard is that popcorn is also a healthy snack, which I'll probably start to incorporate more into my diet. Now, obviously you can't go overboard with like salt and butter, but if you can make it to where it's, beneficial to you in the sense of like, this is a snack, it's kind of quick, it's easy, but it also tastes pretty good, there's no harm in that, I think. So Lent's going to be going pretty well. I think that I'll be able to, well, I am going to. I never really, bitch out on Lent. I always tend to, stay the course and just go forward. So I think that's going to be pretty easy to do, in my opinion. And just kind of, see my way through it and get through it and be like, this is cool. It's something that I've done every single year, and I really don't have any, worry that I'm going to be able to break. And I think that it's actually a good thing for me because, like I've said, I've been saying that I've been addicted to candy. Well, what better way to kind of halt that addiction than Lent for God Himself, right? But this is what God wants me to do. He wants me to quit candy and actually give it a solid effort to quit candy and not be, a mess, a sugary mess. All right, moving on. I want to talk to you guys about a movie I saw, the new Marvel movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp. That came out last week. I actually was excited to see it, I'll be honest. Ant-Man, if you guys don't know, is actually one of my favorite Marvel movies. Well, not my top 5, but definitely the first Ant-Man. When I saw it, I wasn't expecting much, I'll be honest. I didn't really care about the character all that much when I first heard about him. I just knew that he shrunk, he got big, and he was inspired by an ant and stuff like that. And I thought he was kind of a lamer character. Didn't really care about him all that much. But when I saw the movie, and when I saw Paul Rudd play the character Scott Lang and Ant-Man, and just the whole funness of that movie, the comedy of the movie, I thought that movie was one of the strongest comedy, more comic leaning MCU films that have come out within the past, I don't know, 10 years, I think. If you haven't seen the first Ant-Man or haven't watched it in a while, it's pretty solid. It doesn't really there's no really any flaws to it. It's not a super big MCU film obviously Infinity War or Endgame or any of the other bigger movies in the MCU, but it's definitely a fun time. It's a lot of fun. It's got a great cast Paul Rudd, I said, Michael Pena, T.I. It's a fun-ass movie. It's probably more fun than you would think, and it's also really cool, and it's really, it introduces a new character to the Avengers as, obviously Paul Rudd's Ant-Man, which I think that, it's fun. It's just a fun movie to watch. If you need something to watch that's fun, that's guaranteed to get you some laughs, guaranteed to be just a fun time and just to sit back, relax, I think Ant-Man is actually a pretty solid movie. Not just a solid MCU film, but a solid movie in general. So if you haven't checked it out, I'm pretty sure a lot of people have, but if you haven't checked it out, you should check it out. But we're not talking about Ant-Man 1 anymore. We're talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is the third movie in the Ant-Man trilogy, Ant-Man franchise, along with going, I believe this is the first film to start Phase 5 of the MCU. And, the first one to kick it off, they're choosing Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now, also, a little bit of more backstory. I was not a fan of Ant-Man and the Wasp, the second movie in the Ant-Man franchise. I thought that movie was just a prepper for Avengers Endgame, and it was really, in my opinion, a waste of time up until the end credit scene where you saw the straight up lead up into Endgame. And I have to say, it just wasn't a very good movie, not a very fun movie, not a very well-written movie, kind of a boring, lame excuse of a movie that didn't need to be a movie. It was just a waste of time, in my opinion. Nothing really happened. Nothing that I cared about really happened with the characters. Just let's get to Endgame. And then that was basically it. Now, maybe I'm being a little too harsh on that film. Maybe I should go back and rewatch it, and without my my obsession and wanting to watch Endgame, maybe that's washed over, and maybe I could, watch it for what it is. But at the time, I just I didn't care about anything that was going to happen in that movie. I just wanted to move on and see, Avengers Endgame. But eventually we got to that, and then the story's set. Anyways, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. The third installment of the Ant-Man trilogy is also starring, of course, Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly as Ant-Man and Wasp. Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer is also in it, introducing, at least I believe in the film universe, Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror. I've heard that he is in a couple TV shows. I think he's in the Loki TV show, but I've never seen Loki. Don't plan on watching Loki, so haven't seen it. Haven't seen him yet. I feel like if you're going to be watching the TV shows, and you still gotta, you have to give the character at least a good introduction, because there's going to be still a lot of people that watch Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania who have not seen Jonathan Majors play Kang the Conqueror yet. So I think that this movie, did a pretty good job with introducing Kang. I'm a little concerned about how is he going to be the ultimate bad guy for this, I believe, Phase 5 and even Phase 6 of the MCU movies. But we'll get to that later. Let's talk about the movie itself. So the movie itself also has another big casting change. The actress Catherine Newton is playing Scott Lang's daughter, Cassie Lang. She also is kind of like Paul Rudd's character, Scott, kind of a troublemaker, kind of like her dad. Was in jail and stuff like that. Kind of had a little bit of a criminal history, stuff like that. But not really criminal, not necessarily like her dad, but a little bit of a jail time served by Miss Lang, which was kind of cool, kind of a throwback to like how he was always getting caught with stuff in jail, getting bailed out and all that stuff. Remember, you have to remember that Scott Lang was a thief before he was an Avenger. That's something that you kind of forget along the way, that he was like a thief and stuff like that. He, committed crimes. He was a criminal, and now he's an Avenger. It's kind of cool how you kind of, go full circle, and now he's just a pretty much, Avenger, good guy and all that. But before that, he wasn't always the straightest edge. He wasn't always the goodest boy. He was a kind of a criminal. But anyways, they recast her, which I thought was a little strange, because they had the young lady who was playing his daughter since, I believe, the first one, kind of mature enough. I think that you see in the she comes back, and I think Avengers Endgame or a movie after that, you see her, it's like, oh yeah, she can totally play his daughter in the next movie. They recast her. I don't know why they did that, but that's what happened. So they all go on this big adventure, right? This is advertised in the trailers. The whole family, essentially, the Scott, his daughter, Wasp, Hank Pym, and his wife, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, all go into the quantum realm. Obviously, that's why the film is called Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This is going to be some big, extravagant movie. We got Bill Murray in it. We got Jonathan Majors, coming in too. We're going to see the quantum realm, which I got to say, when you first get into it, is pretty dang cool. I have to say, some of the effects in these Marvel films have not been the best in recent memory. I'm looking at you, Thor. I'm looking at you, Doctor Strange. I'm looking at you, Eternals. Some of it looks a little cheesy. And I have to say this, along with Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, these effects in the quantum realm look pretty damn cool. Look actually really good, I'll be honest. This movie definitely doesn't have like the Avengers level team up or the Avengers level plot, really, but the effects are pretty Avengers like. I mean, the effects, the world that they go to, they really dive into the quantum realm of how this all works out, and how like there's like a whole little like crazy stuff in there that's not, it's kind of explained to you, but not really, of how it all works and stuff like that. There's still a lot to be told, I think, in that aspect of how the quantum realm works, how the time works in that too. That's never really explained, but nonetheless, the adventure down there is pretty dang cool, and it also looks pretty cool. And then of course they run into Kang the Conqueror. That's no spoiler. He's going to be the big bad guy. Like I said before, he's portrayed by Jonathan Majors, who I haven't seen him in anything. I know he's been Kang in the Loki TV show, but, he's having kind of a bit of a come up party, like a coming out party. Like, he's here to take over Hollywood. He's Kang the Conqueror. He's the bad guy, kind of the bad guy in Creed 3, who Michael B. Jordan's character is going to be fighting in Creed 3. He was just in that movie Devotion. So he's kind of got a big year right now. He's happening on a big year at this moment. And I gotta tell you this, man. He plays Kang the Conqueror really, really good. Like, he plays the bad guy who has all the power in the world at his fingertips, and he wields it like he's like, I could kill you right now, but I'm not going to, because I need you to help me with what I want to do, what I want to achieve. And he's good at like manipulation. He's got a very subtle voice, which kind of like almost makes you think that he's your friend. And his backstory is very, very interesting, and the way that he shows up in the quantum realm is interesting. And it all works out very well. And I think the reason why it does work out is because Jonathan Majors actually delivers a performance that is like almost like, in a way, like a mustache twirling villain that kind of knows everything about you, but not looking like a cheesy mustache twirling villain. He just kind of portrays it well and stoic, but also like a coolness to him, like that he's ahead of you, that he knows what to do, he knows his plan, what he's going to try to do, and execute it as best as that he possibly can. And I think that, sometimes it feels like the movie is a little too big for what it is. I'll be honest. Like, his plot and what he wants to do is so monumental. It feels like there needs to be more than just Ant-Man in this film to, contain this threat. A lot of things that you think when you heard Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania, and that it was going to be Kang the Conqueror in the movie as the bad guy. And they've already, established that Kang the Conqueror is going to be the next Thanos, right? If you haven't noticed, they promoted it, they marketed it, they've even released the name of the movies of the Avengers, the Avengers, the Kang Dynasty, as one of the movies. Is like, he's going to be the big bad guy. They've established this. But you also kind of know in the back of your head that nothing can really happen in this movie at the moment. When you watch it, when stuff happens, when shit gets kind of real, at least in my opinion, I was like, okay, well, nothing's really going to happen because this is just an Ant-Man movie, right? We have Kang in here who's supposed to be the big bad guy. He's being introduced, and you assume he's going to do some shit, like some pretty horrific shit. He has to, because he's the bad guy. He's got to be kind of like, he's got to be menacing. He's got to do bad stuff. He is the bad guy after all. But at the same time, as the movie unfolds, and you're like, okay, Kang, what are you going to do? And he really doesn't do anything. He plays a good performance, but he doesn't do a whole lot. It's like, it's kind of weird because there's a lot of cool fighting sequences that happen in this movie that are like between like this group in the quantum realm that don't like Kang, and they have like a big battle and shit like that. That's really cool, but it's all like kind of flashy and just kind of like shock value, but there's no real meaning to it. There's no real like stakes involved, I think. I mean, there's like a kind of like a big plot point that he wants, I'm not going to spoil it, but he wants, this really badly, or else he'll kill Scott Lang, or Scott's daughter. And, in the entire thing, I'm like, that's not going to happen. They're not going to kill, Ant-Man or Wasp or Scott Lang's daughter, who's going to be the future of the Ant-Man clan. Like, you just knew it was never going to happen, I feel like Marvel also kind of has, this not this trope, but like this whole thing that they'll never kill off a character unless they've run him to the ground. And, I feel like they didn't run Iron Man and Steve Rogers to the ground, but like they wrote it in a way where like, okay, they're gone. For one, Tony Stark died, he was killed. And Captain America is a fossil. He's old now. He can't really be Captain America. So it's like they wrote their way out. They're out. Ant-Man is still kind of a pretty strong Avenger. He's still got his powers. He's still able to do his part, be an Avenger, be Ant-Man. It's like they're not going to just kill him off in this film. They're not going to do that. In the back of my mind, I'm like, this is nothing. As cool as it looks, as fun as it was, the movie, I'm like, there's nothing's gonna happen. Nothing's gonna happen. I just knew it, and nothing did happen. It's the same as same. Scott didn't die. Is nothing happened. Nothing really big happened in this movie. The only thing that was really big, I think, that was introduced was, Kang and his abilities, because I never really knew what he was all about, or at least what in the films it was. It's also still kind of a mystery, the whole Kang thing. I'll be honest. There's some things I kind of want to talk about that might be a little too spoilery, but like Kang's origin is what I thought was kind of concrete is actually not really all that true. There's a lot that's still like left to be explained about what Kang really is, and especially who Kang is, which I'm sure will be discussed and explained in further MCU films. But as far as his film introduction, it was pretty decent. Again, Jonathan Majors kills it as Kang, but it still left more to be for me to be desired. Like I wanted more. I just wanted it a little bit more concrete. And to be honest, obviously this is an Avengers movie, and I told you that Scott Lang doesn't die. So that definitely means that Kang the Conqueror was essentially defeated in the movie. Obviously, the bad guy lost and the good guy won. So with that being said, I find it very, very hard for me to believe that this guy is going to be the bad guy. Like I said, for the Avengers, he was already beaten by Ant-Man and Wasp and his daughter. It felt for me that Kang was shown off. He was cool, but he's already been beaten. Ant-Man beat him. What more threats could he possibly show to potentially beat the Avengers? If he were to beat the Avengers, So I don't know. I feel like, with Kang being Kang and who he was cool. He was really, really cool. But it was a little, just a little underwhelming for me. A little underwhelming. The not much really happens in the movie, I'll be honest. It kind of all the way back to square one in some senses. Got some cool performances. Cool new characters. I don't know if you guys, know this, but the character of MODOK that is in the comics is also in this film. And I think it's done pretty well. In my opinion, it's pretty damn funny. It's pretty worth it. And it definitely kind of makes it so like, oh, that character wasn't fully wasted, I guess. It's a pretty fun little thing to watch. It's definitely I think the most like comedic parts in this film is MODOK. I'm not sure if that's his whole, character in the films, if he's supposed to be like comic relief or something like that. I totally doubt it, but it was fun to watch. It was fun to see played out, and at some parts I was like, oh my god, I want more MODOK. Give me more MODOK. This is so funny. But at the end of the day, like this movie wasn't like terrible. Definitely wasn't like an unwatchable movie like Thor: Love and Thunder. That movie is unwatchable. But it definitely isn't like a movie that's like you have to see to get answers, or you have to see to just be like amazed, or like the events that happen in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania are changing to the MCU. No, nothing really changes in the MCU. Everything still kind of stays the same. Everything is just, it might be a little bit different for people who've probably seen Loki and the TV shows, but like it doesn't really change a whole lot of stuff, I think. If you're a movie watcher, not really. There's a couple cool little credit scenes. I think the first one is like probably the most telling of what's going to happen. Not what's going to happen, but what you can expect, which is, I guess for me, good, because I was not confused, but I'm like, okay, so where do we go now? How do we make this happen? How do we set the landing with these next Avengers movies after what we've seen in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania? So, yeah, it's a solid movie. It was definitely a fun movie, I thought. It was a fun movie. It wasn't like a great movie, but I'll give it a 7.6 out of 10. Solid movie. Fun, watchable for sure. Not like Thor: Love and Thunder or, Eternals. It was watchable and it was fun, It was a cool movie. I'll give it that. 7.6 out of 10. It's definitely not like a godly score, but it's definitely not like a terrible score. Yeah. I think it's very watchable. I think it's very fun. Just not a whole lot of substance to it. Not a whole lot of, what's going to happen or not like what's going to happen next, but like not a whole lot of, of like this is like a changing thing, which, I guess people probably thought that was going to happen because of who was involved in it. And I have to say, I kind of was too, because one, Kang the Conqueror, obviously. Two, the quantum realm has always been talked about this being like a key thing in the fight, between like, well, not the fight, but like the way to, travel through space and time and shit like that, and it being like a realm that's going to be used a lot, to beat bad guys and shit like that. It wasn't really that. It just showed it off and what it was, not a whole lot about how it works or how it's going to be used in the future, if it even will be, honestly. I mean, it would just have to be like Ant-Man and shit, right? The other Avengers can't shrink like Ant-Man can, or Wasp. So, yeah, it was cool. It was decent, but definitely nothing really major happening in this film. Kind of sticking with the MCU, though. I saw a tweet. This was a couple days ago, and it was like, you have to rank the last, I think it was like the last 10, the last 10 MCU movies that have come out since Endgame. And I want to find it, and I want to play this game, or not play it, but I want to rank it myself, because I saw it and I think I have some, some opinions that I think that would, justify my picks for this ranking, because I think that we can all kind of agree that the latest MCU phase post Endgame has been okay. Not like great, but like okay. And I think that that's kind of like a thing where it was expected, because one, the Avengers as we know it are not really I guess as bombastic and as meaningful, because we've lost so many characters along the way. And I guess that was kind of expected. It was kind of expected, because we've had so much success with the previous generation, that once a lot of these characters kind of go away and they're no longer together, especially because Thanos has been defeated, where are we going to go next? Who's going to be the next big bad guy? Who's going to be, taking over the mantle? And I still think that we don't really have that. Like, we don't still have a leader for the Avengers at this moment. And I know that the Avengers really aren't really a thing right now, because we're just kind of getting one-offs with Doctor Strange, Eternals, Shang-Chi, Spider-Man. It's not really collectively talking about the Avengers at the moment. So let me see where I can find these movies real quick. All right, so I'm ranking the last 8 movies that came out in the MCU. And this is kind of like a little bit of phase 4 with phase 5 as well. So if we go down the list of the movies that came out, the last 8 MCU films, we have Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and the Ten Rings, or Legend of the Ten Rings, Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. So we're going to rank all 8 of these movies because, I saw it on Twitter. People were talking about it. People were saying, like, how would you rank them? Because I think that, most people probably think differently about these films. I think we all do. We all have we all have our takes on especially this phase, or these last 8 films, post Avengers Endgame. We're all kind of like, what do we think of these? Do we think they're all that good? I certainly don't think so. But I will give you my ranking right now. So number 1, I think, out of all these films, number 1 for me is easy. It's that Spider-Man No Way Home. It's probably one of the better MCU movies ever made. I'll be honest, in terms of story, events, mind-bending events that happened in the world that you probably thought that would never happen ever in a MCU movie. Who would have thought that we would have been able to see Tobey Maguire again as Spider-Man? And nobody would have thought that. Or see Andrew Garfield come back and actually be really good as Spider-Man again, and seeing them all play off Tom Holland, as the new Spider-Man, him maturing with his decisions and, the sacrifices that he has to make, and the sacrifices that, with great power comes great responsibility. That quote has never been more stronger, I think, than in this film. And we get so many people that go see it and loved it. Like, my dad loved that movie so much. I'm like, yeah, it was an awesome movie. No Way Home was almost a beautiful movie, The performances, seeing, Willem Dafoe play the Green Goblin again was so cool. Adding in Doctor Strange, the consequences of what's going to happen if he has to do this spell. No one's going to remember Peter Parker anymore. Like, this stuff, like, that movie was so cool. It was so good. So emotional, and so much fun too. Like, I remember I saw it the second time, I'm like, dude, this movie is amazing. So I think it's, obvious for me, obvious for most people, I think, that Spider-Man No Way Home is definitely the best MCU movie within these last 8 movies that have come out. Ranked number 1, obviously, no, without a doubt, Spider-Man No Way Home, for sure. Now, number 2 is, I think I'm just going to go with, they're really not all that great after Spider-Man No Way Home, if I'm being honest. And you guys know that I've been very critical of these films coming out. I just, I have not really enjoyed them all that much. I've been very critical with them and what they have to offer, which is not very much, but I guess I'll give you the rest. Number 2 for me is going to be Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Now, I don't love the movie because of the story. Like, the story is all right. The story is okay. It's a nice continuation of Doctor Strange to know a little bit more about the character of Doctor Strange. But I think the best part of the movie, and I'll be honest with you, is not really the story, but the direction of the movie. Like, they straight up went, like, this is going to be a kind of a scarier movie than what you're expecting of MCU. And mainly because they have Sam Raimi directing, you kind of get the Sam Raimi vibe in the movie, which, I'm kind of down for. Especially with a character like Doctor Strange, who's, got a crazy, crazy environment, crazy, stuff that he has to do. He's a wizard and stuff like that. Multiverses, spells, all that stuff, kind of creepy stuff. I was actually really dug the way that the movie was, directed and the way that the movie felt. It definitely did have some payoff towards shows that characters are in, like Elizabeth Olsen's Wanda Maximoff was in the show, and she had stuff to do in the movie that was directly from the stuff that happened in her TV show WandaVision. So thank God that was all worth it. All the time that I spent watching that dumbass show actually paid off, thank God. So that was one where I was like, okay, I see it. I can see how this all kind of makes sense. This all kind of connects, and it's kind of like, connecting. It's rewarding for watching the shows, and that is cool to see that return and make an appearance in the film. I like that. I like Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. I enjoy that. Wasn't a huge fan of the story itself, because whenever you start having people like America Chavez in the film, where she's clearly the object that you must protect, like the MacGuffin of the story, I immediately think that, okay, well, they have no story here, just to protect this person, and that's it. They got to make you care about this character so that they protect her, and that's it, because she's the future of the franchise, and that's it. And that was like the entire story. I was not a big fan of that. I thought that was kind of stupid, kind of silly at some points. Doesn't really connect to anything in the MCU. Also kind of a waste of time, because, spoiler alert, they have like those, the characters that we all wanted to see, like Patrick Stewart back as Professor X. We had Haley Atwell as Captain Britain. We had John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, all to just get blown away by Scarlet Witch in like this other universe, other dimension type shit, which was cool to see them as the characters, but it's like, what, just to kill them off? Very, very strange. But, nonetheless, they could appear in some other way. I mean, in the MCU, no one's ever really fucking dead. So, like, again, I like the direction of the movie. I like the feel of the movie. But the story for me in that movie is just kind of weak, and not really like, it doesn't really give justice to what is shown on screen, because I think that the direction is pretty damn cool. It's pretty neat to see Sam Raimi do his Sam Raimi shit, but the story isn't like that. It's not like fulfilling, in my opinion. But coming off from Spider-Man No Way Home as for me the definitive number one in the last 8 MCU films, yeah, I mean, like, it's good. It's definitely better, than like Thor and shit. But like, it's not like amazing, but it's definitely a good watch. It's fun too. Next movie, number 3. My apologies if you can hear that it is raining outside my house. All right, number 3. Let's see. Number 3. This might just be for recency, but I'm gonna go Ant-Man number 3. Because I don't think that the next ones are worth anywhere near the rest. Ant-Man, like I said before, really actually a fun movie. A really fun movie. And what I actually did not explain in my initial review is that they totally disrespected Wasp in this newest movie. Like, they totally, like, barely had her in the film do anything. They had her do some cool stuff at the end, but like throughout the movie, it's like you're just tagging along. Like, this is like clearly like they had basically nothing for you. They just had to add you in because you're part of the title, like, which is crazy. But like, hey, I guess not everyone can be a great writer, But it was cool. It was definitely a fun movie. I still think that Doctor Strange as a film is a little bit better and has more rewarding aspects of the MCU within its storytelling of the MCU, and the lore of the MCU and what it provides to MCU followers than this one. So I'm gonna put this one at number 3. I think that Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania, like I said before, not the greatest story, not the most meaningful, with like the most stakes or stuff that happens or stuff that matters, but definitely a fun movie, a pretty fun movie. So rank number 4, I'm gonna go with. This is kind of tough. I think I'm going to go Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. So, in my initial review, I'm pretty sure what I told you guys was the movie is highly, highly, highly emotional, which it is. There's a lot of parts in there that are really, really sad. Crazy sad. You know, obviously every character in this film is still grieving the loss of Black Panther, right? T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman, they're grieving it. He's like the heart and soul of the film. Being Black Panther and his sister Shuri having to take up the mantle as the new Black Panther. And still to this day, I think that the movie is written in a way where there is really no hero. You just kind of watch events happen. There's a point in the film where I'm watching it and like I honestly thought that it was either going to be like the mom was going to be the main character or Shuri was going to be the main character. I had no idea at one point. I was totally like, what's going on? Who are we following here? And it all stems because they've tragically lost T'Challa, which, you know, the movie can't really escape. It's hard, it's unfair, but it's true. The movie cannot escape it. He's like mentioned in so many scenes. You think about it all the time. And when you see the story unfold, when you see it all play out, the movie, you kind of picture the movie would be so much better if they just didn't, it's going to be tough to say, but recasting T'Challa and keeping T'Challa in the story. Because the movie doesn't really let Shuri become fully the main character. Like, it doesn't write her as the main character. She still seems to me as a side character. And I think that's just because they didn't know how to write her in or make her step up to be the Black Panther. I don't know. It just didn't feel like they knew how to write her in a way for her to be the main character. Not to say that she is bad in the film. No, she's really good. She's good at playing Shuri. But Shuri, in my opinion, in the film, just doesn't make that leap to become like the main character or the hero in the movie. It just doesn't really happen. Again, very, very emotional movie. Very cool looking movie. The villain is, you know, decent. He has a motivation, but you can't help but think that, you know, if Chadwick did not pass away, it would have been probably so much better. So much better. Especially like with the, you know, the loss of the mom dying, you know, they could have added some flashbacks maybe with his dad, but you can't do that because she's not really the Black Panther yet. You know, it never really, a lot of potential in the film just wasn't, it just very middle of the road, I think. It could have been so much better. Number five. This is kind of a toss-up, but I'm going to go with a movie that I didn't think was all that great, but definitely better than the last three. Better of the last four remaining. I'm going to go Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Now, I think that this movie, in terms of like MCU superhero flick, for the most part in the first act is not really like an MCU movie at all in the first. Pretty different, pretty unique, different storytelling, different type of character, you know, story in the very beginning. But then it slowly becomes an MCU film where the third act is so predictable. You've seen it many, many times. It's, you know, it just does its thing. It goes beat by beat. Check this off. Check that off. We got the big battle. Yes. We got all this stuff. Yeah, we're golden. We can release it. And, you know, it doesn't, the moral of the story and the real meaning of it, you know, Shang-Chi and his dad kind of going at a fight with it, the third act being so bombastic and so grand, and it just, for me, it kind of loses a little bit of the intimacy between him and his dad. And I feel like when you go big on that, you don't really, the thing is that they had like a little bit of, they had a story there that I think would have played out better if it was a smaller, you know, more intimate story, but they decided to go big, and that kind of washes away a little bit of the intimacy between the father and the son character. And especially when at the end of this fight, at the end of the third act, when it gets all CGI heavy and it gets all, not very good CGI in some parts, it becomes like, another MCU film where it's just like, oh, seen this before, seen this again. Yep, another battle, big time battle, world at stake. What else you got? Let's keep it going. Bring it on. You gotta see. I need to see more. Moving on though. So that was number 5. Number 6. This is hard, man. This is getting real hard. We're getting to the real shittiness of this whole last 8 films. The real shit. But I think for number 6, I'm going to go Eternals. Because one, the movie is pretty boring. I'll be honest. The movie's pretty boring. A lot happens in the movie. A lot of big, monumental stuff happens in the movie. To the MCU with all these new characters and stuff like that, but I think without like it doesn't really feel like it is in the same universe at some points. It just doesn't feel, and really these characters that they have in this film, like they're all like gods. They're all gods, and like as I'm watching, I'm like, there's no fucking way that Spider-Man or any of the fucking Avengers, even the strongest one, could even like come into close competition with any of these fuckers. Like, they're way too strong. They're like gods. So as I'm watching, I'm like, okay, well, how are we going to see more of these guys? Like how are we going to get the Eternals to possibly, have to fight like one of, Captain America's bad guys or one of Spider-Man's bad guys? Like, how's this all going to play out? Like, are they just going to be with like the Guardians of the Galaxy guys, where it's like, okay, we're fighting like space gods. Okay, I guess that makes sense. But like, even that, they still feel way too powerful to fight even those guys. And the whole thing of the Celestials being like fully shown off, that they're the gods of the MCU. It's like, these guys, I mean, how do these worlds even collide? It just makes so little sense, So while the movie I think is nice to look at, it is kind of boring. Not really a lot to be desired, I think. Not really a lot to be like, oh, I can't wait for the next Eternals film. No, I never was like, I can't wait for the next one. No, I feel like this film is like a one and done. I feel like when they showed this off, when they're like, okay, we're going to go big. We're going to introduce like a new pantheon of the MCU. These new characters that no one's ever heard of, or no one's like really heard of. We're going to put them in the MCU. Now, how's this going to work out? Well, that's my question to you, Marvel. How are you going to put these guys into the Avengers? Or how are they going to fight Kang? What's going to happen? How would any of this happen? I feel like, as time goes on, we might not see these guys ever again. I'll just be honest. I feel like they'll just forget that they even existed, that they even put them in a film. That's just my thought. I don't know. So number 6 goes to Eternals. Number 7, Black Widow. Black Widow was a movie that came out way too late and did not need to be told. I feel like Scarlett Johansson had a good send-off as Black Widow in Avengers Endgame, and it was solid, it was worthy, it was, sad, but also, kind of like, oh, she did something so important, like it was, a great way to send her out. And then we get a prequel of her on a mission to just introduce characters that are going to be in the next movie. Like, we just made a movie about Black Widow to introduce Florence Pugh and David Harbour. They're going to be in the other Avenger squad, I think called the Thunderbolts. So it's like an introduction to a new team, a new squad, and it's like, okay, cool. It's not like a good movie. It's not like that good. I think everybody has a shitty accent in it. Everyone has a terrible, terrible accent, including Florence Pugh and even the great Rachel Weisz, which is crazy to say, but you can tell that she phoned it in hard in this film. So Black Widow, just a movie that I honestly forgot about until I saw this list. I'm like, oh shit, that came out. that's a movie that you probably be like, oh, who saw that? It was a straight to Disney Plus film, which at the time the pandemic was pretty big, not much to do. So you're like, I'll pop on Black Widow. Let me see how this turns out. Turns out not very well. So Black Widow, pretty down at the bottom, close to it, but not there yet. But not a movie that you need to watch for any reason whatsoever, unless you're a big Scarlett Johansson fan. But if you read anything about it, Marvel kind of dicked her over and didn't put in the theaters, so she couldn't get like her bonus, and they cheaped her out of some cash. Not a very good thing to do, especially with a movie that probably could have used a theatrical release to make its money back, because I guarantee you that if this was released in theaters, people would have seen it, even though it was shit. Probably would have made a little bit of a profit, But nonetheless, Marvel's Black Widow is number 7. And now for the last movie, the worst movie to come out in the last 8 films of the MCU. If you've been listening, you know what it is. You know what it has to be. And that is Thor: Love and Thunder. Talk about an absolute train wreck, an absolute joke of a film, which has no jokes in it, which is 0% funny in the actual movie itself. It is a joke, a catastrophe, an embarrassment, a terrible film. A terrible, terrible film. Now, according to Rotten Tomatoes, Thor: Love and Thunder is not the most critically panned movie that the MCU has made. No, that would be Eternals and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. But if I were to search Thor: Love and Thunder on Rotten Tomatoes, I see a whopping 64% for Thor: Love and Thunder. That is way too high. That is way too high. And I see a 77% of audience scores. That is also way too high. And if I go to other sources like IMDb and look up Thor: Love and Thunder, I see a 6.3 audience score and a 57 Metacritic score. That's a little bit more in line, I think. What I'm trying to say here is this movie's garbage. It's the most trashy movie I've ever seen. If you want to see a character like Thor, who had a pretty cool arc in the MCU, from Thor 1, Dark World, Ragnarok, Infinity War, Endgame, pretty cool arc, pretty cool character. Started off pretty serious, which I dug. I also dug the jokiness, fish out of water type humor. That was cool too. He played it pretty well. Infinity War Thor is my favorite Thor of all time. And then we get this piece of shit, this joke, this loser, this moron, this idiot. That's an actual idiot. Directed by an idiot who made a good first movie in his MCU career, and his second one just took the piss and took a shit all over the fans. This is the worst movie of that the MCU has probably ever made. Not just the bottom of this 8 movie list, but the worst I've ever made. I have never been so disgusted and such disrespected in a film ever in my entire life. What a waste of time. An actual waste of time. With a badass trailer that I thought was going to be pretty sick. It got Sweet Child of Mine. You got me. I'm there day 1. Heard the bad shit. I was like, maybe I'll hold back on this. This is not very good. I didn't just hear like not good shit. I heard bad shit. I was like, no, it's bad? So I held off. I was like, no. I mean, I'm hearing way too much bad shit. So I held off. I watched on Disney Plus, and I wish I'd had that time back. I was like, no, it can't be that bad. It cannot be. Christian Bale, Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, let's get it. Sweet Child of Mine, let's get it. No. An absolute disgrace of a film. Waste of time. Don't watch it, please. Don't watch it. If there was a ranking to put, like a title to put for every one of these, movies, like number 1 was Spider-Man No Way Home. That's a must watch. Thor Love and Thunder would be a never ever watch. Never ever watch. Like, it's that bad. So that's going to be it for today, people. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Remember, you can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube at Intelligent Moron with Alex Silva. Episodes drop every Thursday morning. Make sure you like, subscribe, rate, review, comment, do all that good stuff. And yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next week.